Hey guys, welcome to the show. You're listening to Scott Lips. This is Lip Service. And just so you know, the show is now available if you're listening to this on Dash, as a podcast, on iTunes, on Spotify, even available on YouTube. And today on the show, we have Mr. Pete Yorn, an amazing, talented singer from New Jersey. He's put out a bunch of records. His new record is actually with Scarlett Johansson. We're going to talk about that. One of my favorite singer-songwriters. Excited to have him on the show. And as I mentioned, make sure to check out the podcast now, Lip Service, on Spotify, iTunes, and now on YouTube. And coming up in just a moment, Mr. Pete Yorn. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. We were just listening to Crystal Village, and we were with Mr. Pete Yorn, a New Jersey dude. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. Good to see you.
You too, you too. We actually have a lot of mutual friends. We were just talking about that, like Long Island, New Jersey, East Coast in the house, which is cool. It's funny because Brian Burns, Eddie Burns, some of my closest friends growing up. And I believe that you actually did some music for Eddie early on too, right? We were just talking about that story, which is great. So I want to hear all about that. But I want to talk about like where it all started with you, like starting before the Largo days and before you moved to LA a long time ago, back from Jersey, right? You actually wanted to go to law school, I believe, like early on?
It was kind of a default. I don't even know if I wanted to go, but I didn't know what else I was going to do. My oldest brother was a lawyer, and I liked, I always liked To Kill a Mockingbird. I kind of thought like being in the courtroom and arguing would be fun. So I was like, all right, I guess I can try that. But then music kind of just overtook me.
You started playing guitar at what age? What age were you getting into it?
I think 12 probably is when I learned. I was a drummer first.
Oh,
Like
cool.
you.
Yeah. And your brother's also a drummer too. So you grew up in this like entertainment family, which we'll talk about. But so were your early influences like Americana? Because I always looked at your music as like Tom Petty, the Black Crowes, the Wallflowers, that style, which I love. And would you say that was that what you were listening to when you were growing up?
No, my early influences, the first influences for sure was metal. I'd say Maiden and Priest.
Oh, cool. Well, that's actually where I really come from. So I really get that. Awesome.
Yeah, I remember being, we got MTV like a little later because we were in a small town in Jersey, and we first got cable. We finally got MTV, and I remember, being 7 years old, sitting in front of the TV praying for a Judas Priest video to come on. I was
you got another thing,
into it.
Electric Eye, the Helium, all that stuff, right?
There was Breaking the Law.
Right,
there was Heading Out to the Highway video. It was so cool.
So it was like 70s Priest you were into.
It was very cool stuff. And it was because my brothers are like a good deal older than me, or it seems a lot older when you're a little kid because they were in high school when I was still 7, And so they were cranking that stuff in the basement with their friends, and I just loved it. And,
it was called the New Wave of British Heavy Metal, I believe, is what it was.
Yeah, whatever it was, I liked it as a kid.
So that's what you were listening to growing up. It's fun. I don't think anybody would have thought that, but Maiden, Priest, were you into like those other obscure bands like Saxon and all that stuff, or was it just like
Maiden and Priest were definitely way up there for me.
Cool.
And that was it. But things changed quick. Like I was playing drums and I loved those bands, but as soon as I got like 7th grade, even 6th grade, and my middle brother came back from his first year at University of Maryland, I remember, and he played Big Mouth Strikes Again by the Smiths for me. And like everything just went,
right.
And I was like, oh. And so all of a sudden I started getting exposed to the Smiths and The Cure and REM too. And that immediately made me want to kind of, like, I love the guitar playing and I love the melodies, and it was a whole different thing, and it kind of immediately made me want to dress a certain way, and because I never was dressing like Bruce Dickinson or nothing like that.
I don't think anybody was dressing like
even
that.
though I love it, but it never occurred to me to do that. But as soon as I heard Smiths, Cure, REM, early U2, even Clash, the Jam, I remember everything changed, and I was like, put me in a place where I'm like, I want to kind of learn how to play guitar. And then right when I did, I just started writing songs. Like as soon as I learned like a couple chords, I just started writing songs.
So you didn't have like a Zeppelin phase, a Stones phase, or was it straight like
later
metal into like the British
that stuff
pop thing?
All came later. I mean, we used to crank, Good Times, Bad Times in the basement. And like we had Zeppelin 2. I remember like that was one of the records that we had, and that would come on a lot, and I loved it. But the things that really affected me are what I was saying.
Yeah, I love that your background is metal, because that's actually my background, but no one knows that. That's funny. So it turns out that your whole family actually ends up in entertainment. So you're playing music, you decide to come to LA, you get a gig at Largo, right? And so at some point, when did you think music was going to be something you were going to do for a living? You just came out here with like the hopes and dreams that you would listen to the Smiths, and you're like, seems like a good move to move to LA and try the singer-songwriter thing?
No, what happened was I was at college at Syracuse, upstate New York.
Right.
With a lot of Jersey and Long Island kids.
Yeah.
And, the plan, my dad wanted me to be a tax lawyer. So freshman year, I was an accounting major, and that was a bad fit. And I remember I was like, Dad, I can't. I'm not going to do that. And he was like, all right. So I'm like, well, to appease him, I was like, maybe I'll go to law school, So I switched majors, and I ended up in a speech communication major. And but by junior year, it was so cold up there. I spent so much time indoors.
Kind of miserable, right? Great pizza, but miserable.
It was fun.
Snow,
I smoked a lot of weed,
right.
and I just was writing songs in my room, just like every day. I wasn't like trying to. It was just so natural. Like I just had my guitars, and I would just banging out songs. And my brothers were already living in California. I remember racking up a huge long distance bill, like calling my brother, like, yo, check out this new song. Because my middle brother, Rick, taught me how to play drums when I was a kid, and we shared so much music together. And so we always had that connection. And he was in my band when I moved out.
Right,
as a drummer for a bit. But, I knew junior year that the music pull was kind of getting really big. And I remember thinking in my head, well, I could always go to law school, let me try music now while I'm kind of young and kind of naive and crazy enough to go for it.
Yeah.
But I graduated because I knew it was important to do for my parents and stuff. My grandpa, I remember it was like, you got to finish school. So I finished school, but then I knew I was going to move to California and try music for a little bit. So.
Cool. And then your first gig out here was actually at Largo, right? Which is still kind of hopping around, I believe, right? Largo's still around because you played there Valentine's Day, I saw on your Instagram, which is awesome. But that's kind of where you started out here, right? Was that how you kind of cut your teeth on the scene out here?
That was my first kind of consistent gig. My first gig ever was at a place called Highland Grounds.
Okay, sure. I remember the place.
And I was probably a sophomore in college still at that point, and it was for fun. And I remember I played New York City Serenade by Bruce Springsteen for the first time, and this guy was like, what the heck song was that? Oh my God. I was like, oh, it's not mine. It's a Springsteen song. I was like, oh, but and I remember it gave me encouragement, and I had won a talent show like for a goof at school at Syracuse, and it was like a charity talent show that I got roped into, and I played a song that ended up on one of my records years later. And
was it a cover or was it?
No, it was my song, a song called "Someday" about get my heart broken, and it ended. It's the last song on a record called "Breakup."
Sure.
But yeah, it was just kind of slowly going that way, and then when I got out here, the Largo thing happened because one of my fraternity brothers, I was in a very interesting fraternity that kind of bucks a lot of the preconceived notions about fraternities, where it was just a bunch of diverse guys, artists and athletes and finance guys and, burnouts all together.
Everything.
All together. And it was really cool. And I'm still friends with a lot of those people. But this kid, Adam Cohen, who's Leonard Cohen's son, was in my fraternity. And we were buddies. And when I got out here, he was out here. And I had some demos, and he's the one who gave them to Flanagan, who runs Largo years ago. And he got me in there. And so.
And you were there working there, or you were there like every night? What were
I'm
you doing
forever
there?
grateful. But no, I would play there like every, a couple weeks. And it was, sometimes I'd play there solo acoustic, sometimes I'd play there with my band.
Cool.
My brother on drums, my buddy, another fraternity brother on bass.
Who else was playing there at the time? Were there other artists there that did something? I feel like there was other artists in that genre that were playing with you at the time.
Yeah, at the time, Elliott Smith was there a lot, and he had already been popular, Amy Mann was there a lot, Michael Penn, John Bryan was doing his Friday thing.
Awesome. What an amazing collective of people, right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you
I was
Elliott?
intimidated. I remember, I'd walk in, you'd hear a pin drop, and my rowdy college friends would come in to see me, and they'd be at the bar drinking Guinness, and it used to be like an Irish pub,
right?
And
the Jersey
they'd be
guys
talking through my whole set and
hey
making
Petey,
noise.
what's up? Hey Petey, go
exactly.
for it. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a great place for me to kind of, get see how great artists were doing it, and also kind of just get the practice,
Definitely. So after that, obviously you started playing the Viper Room, and you were playing all around town, right? It wasn't just Largo at that point, and you got your first record deal, I guess, was sort of simultaneous with your sort of scoring for TV and film, right? Because I feel like it started happening at the same time. You started getting, requests for doing stuff for TV and film, I believe, right? At the same time?
What happened was I got my record deal after working on songs in my friend's garage in Van Nuys. This is around 99. And I remember July 99 is when we got signed to Columbia. And a few months after that, when I was about to go mix music for the morning after, I got a call from Peter Farrelly, and he he asked me
The
to
Farley
score.
brothers, right?
Yeah, the Farley brothers.
Yeah.
The guy just won Best Picture, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So happy for him.
And when you
But,
get a call like that, is it like surreal to you? Is it like,
Yeah.
did I just get a call from the Farley brothers?
I had like my first cell phone and I was on a plane. I think I was flying to New York for something. And I answered, it's like, Pete, it's Pete Farley. And I'd met him before. I'd seen him around because I'd been in LA for like 4 years at that point.
Yeah.
And, but I didn't really know him, you know. And he's like, I got this new movie. I want you to score it. And I was like, wait, what? And I was just had this. So I had to say yes, but I remember in the back of my head, I was so focused on my record, like that I was like, wow, am I going to have time to do it? Well, I just got to do it. I figure out. So I was mixing music for the morning after at the same time, and we were scoring Me, Myself, and Irene.
And that must have been sort of surreal, right? Because between your record and everything, it all started happening at once. And then also you went on to write songs for Spider-Man and Bandits and all this other stuff. So do you, that first record, I always say, is like my desert island disc. It's such a great record. I mean, you have so many great records, but particularly The Morning After is a record that I would actually take on a desert island as one of my top 10 records.
Sweet. That's an honor.
Amazing record. I listen to the record all the time. It's actually, Rolling Stones actually named you like one of the top 10 artists to watch back in the day. And so when that record started happening, did you feel this momentum? I actually want to know even how you got your record deal with Columbia, because take me back a little bit. So you have your record deal, you're recording, but how did the record deal come about? There's so many musicians, I feel like, that listen to the show that want to know, as a singer-songwriter, back in the day, this is about 18, 19, 20 years ago, right, when you got your deal. How did it even happen?
Yeah, it was 99 when I got signed, July, and it was right around my birthday. I remember it was like a birthday present. I was so excited. You know, you got to remember back then, like getting a record deal was everything. You know,
Definitely.
It was like you didn't, you know, Napster had just started.
Yeah.
I feel like, but like, you know, you didn't have the ability to just put yourself out on the internet like you could today.
It was like hitting the jackpot.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It meant everything. And
Yeah.
a kid growing up in Jersey to be signed to the label that Springsteen was on, you know, was like, whoa, you know, it was a big deal. And I remember I'd been working. I mean, there's so many aspects to this story, but you know, to keep it brief, I came out in '96, May '96, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna, you know, I was kind of super young, youthful confidence, like I'm great, I'm gonna get a record deal. I had no idea how it worked.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm playing out a little bit, nothing's happening. Got offered one deal, but it wasn't so good, so we didn't do it. Some other deal I got offered, and I was just like, had this confidence where I was like, I don't want it, I'm not doing it. And so, you know, I just waited around, and then the interest came from Columbia. Actually, I thought they were going to pass on me because I got a call to go to New York and play for Donnie Ienner in his office. And he's like, what do you got, kid? It was like such an old kind of record scene. That guy's a legend.
Yeah.
But and
That's like the most nerve-wracking. People don't understand that going there for a record is exactly like that. What do you got, kid? Let me your best song, right?
Yeah, it was pretty much that.
Yeah.
In his office, he's smoking, and Tommy Mottola was the boss
Right,
then.
sure.
And Donnie's like, what do you got? And I remember I played him a song. I was like, I got this song. I played Just Another Girl, and I
Yep.
played him a song called Murray. Both songs that made it on Music for the Morning.
Yeah.
And I played them both, and he was like, okay, thanks. We'll let you know. Well, you know, whatever. Okay,
We'll be in touch.
and that was it.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
left, and I flew back, and I heard nothing for weeks, and I was just kind of like, all right, you know,
Yeah.
maybe, you know, whatever, you know, just keep going. And you know, I don't remember how much time went by, but maybe it could have been months.
And you were gigging out this whole time, right? Concurrently.
At some point, I stopped gigging,
Okay.
and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna try and make the greatest record that I can make. And I just focused on, I got a great recording partner, this kid Walt Vincent, who we met
Cool.
outside the Troubadour at a Sloan concert.
Amazing.
And he's like, I got this little studio in Van Nuys in a garage, and come, let's try something. So I started working with him, and we just started making these beautiful recordings. And those are the recordings that made it to the record.
And
know?
you played a lot of those instruments on those songs, right?
Yeah, we played, you know, he played a lot, I played a lot. And
Did your
and
brother play drums on anything?
He did not on
Oh,
that.
okay.
On some early demos he did that we did over at Cherokee.
Okay.
He played drums on, but not this stuff. And then I remember what happened was I got lucky. The morning I wrote, in the morning one day I wrote Life on a Chain, the song.
Yeah.
And later that day I had a meeting, a follow-up meeting finally with a guy from Columbia, this guy Will Botwin, who's a great manager and great supporter of my music over the years. And he was out in California, and he's like, you got anything new to play, whatever? And I was like, well, I wrote this song this morning, and I played him Life on a Chain, like my guitar,
Yeah.
like as close as I am to
Yeah.
you. And that was the moment where everything changed. He had heard some of the stuff we were recording too that I was doing with Wall, and he really liked it. Like Lose You, I think, was done, and Just Another was done. And I played him Life on a Chain. He said, let's do something. Let's do something. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, let's make a record. And that was like, what?
That's it.
And that
Now,
was
when you
it.
write a song like Live Unchained, are you in your head, you're like, I think I have something here. I think this could be like something.
I never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
You actually never know, right? It's like one of those things.
Yeah.
That's funny. So yeah, it's such an amazing record, and I know that you played a lot of instruments on the record. But did you have outside musicians playing on it, or was it just mostly you on that first record?
It was me and Walt, and Brad Wood also played some cool parts. After I got signed, I think they were a little nervous, like who are these two guys working in a garage in Van Nuys? We don't know who the heck they are, you know.
Right.
And so they wanted like a name. So Mr. Brad Wood, we loved his work, and he made so many great debut records for artists. And he got what we were doing. I remember him saying like, I don't want to mess with what you guys. I really like what you guys are doing. I just want to come help you guys any way I can. And we thought that was so cool. And he had such a great vibe. And he came in and started working. And he really helped take stuff over the top. He would he'd have great like finishing touches that would really make it sound awesome. And then he mixed all the stuff too.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you met Walt at a Sloan concert, because it's another band that you love that I read about, right?
Yes.
And it's a band that was like flying a little bit under the radar here, but definitely an amazing band. And you ended up touring later on with like Coldplay, the Foo Fighters, REM even, I believe at some point.
Yes.
Which was like the best tour that you did? You have a tour that stands out? Is there a story in your head that sticks out? Like, this is the best tour, the best night. I never thought I'd be opening for such and such, right? Is there one story that kind of sticks out in your head as like some of the best tour memories that you have?
You know, every tour is different. I got to tour with a lot of my heroes, you know. It was like surreal, like touring with REM, like I was saying earlier, like that's the reason I wanted to play guitar. And, you know, some bands you go out with and they lay low, you know, you don't really see them too much. And other bands, like, they want to party or hang out. And
Dave Grohl's a great guy, right?
Yeah, REM and Foos, like, they all wanted to hang.
Yeah.
And we had so much fun and a lot of funny memories, a lot of blurry memories. But, yeah. You know,
any Spinal Tap moments on tour? There's always those Spinal Tap moments, right? When you're playing in front of like 3 people, you're like, what's going on here? That's definitely happened, right?
There's probably some great moments. You know, it all gets a little foggy now.
Yeah, definitely. And you ended up working with Ken Andrews and Butch Walker, 2 producers that I really like. I love Failure. Were you a big Failure fan?
I only knew one Failure song. I remember I met Ken at a dinner. We were sitting at a big round table at some restaurant, and his manager introduced us, and he was like, "Come on down to my studio and let's do something." We recorded for Nancy.
Cool,
and
amazing
Ken,
song too.
just brought his amazing touch to it, and I remember him adding 808 kick with something like you didn't really hear then at all.
Yeah.
The way the build up and then kind of went crazy like that. It was like I hadn't heard that. It's something that's kind of a staple in the EDM
Definitely.
world now, but he was really ahead of that curve, and he did a beautiful production on that.
Awesome. Well, I want to jump to one of my favorite songs on the record, Black. Is there a story behind Black?
What can I tell you? That was one that was born in Van Nuys when we were still in that garage, and it started on the drums. I remember I came in and the drums were kind of set up in this corner, and I remember I said, I want to just start a song on the drums, and I kind of just started playing that beat, and I laid everything on top of it from that beat. From the beat, I was feeling probably a little Joy Division or something like that in my head, and then went to the bass, and it just came, and the whole thing
just kicked in.
The thing just each step led to the next, and the way that the music sounded just brought out the lyrics and the melody.
Awesome. Well, it's a great track. Pick up the record, by the way. It's there's many records. There's 7 albums now, and you just put out a new record with Scarlett Johansson too. But let's jump to Black, and we'll be right back with Pete Yorn. 2 seconds. Thanks, guys. We are back. Hey, guys, we're back with Pete Yorn, just listening to Black. I love that track. And you did about 3 records, Pete, with Scarlett Johansson, and I love the story, actually, how you guys started working together. I read somewhere that you're like a bit of an insomniac, like me.
I was. I'm not anymore, but I was.
You were.
A period.
And you kind of just woke up, and you're like, I need to do a duets record right away, right? Like just sort of like Bridget Bardot. What was the influences there?
Serge and Bridget.
Bridget, right. So it was like, I need to do a record like this right away. Like no context, just like sort of waking up out of a dream and thinking this is something I need to do right now. Tell me about that, because it's pretty. She hadn't really sang before, right? It was just something. I believe that like because your whole family, if people don't know, right? Your brother's a big manager. Your other brother's a big entertainment lawyer. You're connected like so many degrees of separation to a lot of people in the entertainment industry. So I believe they probably work with Scarlett too, right? So I guess you guys are friendly, and then how did she come to mind for that?
Yeah, I mean, I met Scarlett. You know, I grew up. I have to be very clear. We grew up in New Jersey. My dad was a dentist. My mom a teacher. Like we weren't like a Hollywood family at all.
Right.
My oldest brother moves out to California. He worked for the hardcore gang unit. He was a deputy district attorney.
Wow.
Then my middle brother comes out and he's working finance in San Diego. And he kept visiting my brother in LA every weekend. And he's like met all these like managers and agents. He's like, I could do this. I did. And he just like quit. He was at Shearson. He quit. And he
Is that Rick?
That's Rick.
Yeah.
And he became an agent really fast and did really well. And so I'm like, my brothers were my best friends. I'm like, I'm moving out to California too, and I'm gonna try music, whatever. And so we move out. And so when I came out, like just because of what they did for work, like there were always kind of like famous people around. I was like super starstruck. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Whatever. So I got to meet a lot of interesting people that way, which was cool. And one thing I always learned was, you have these ideas about famous people, whatever. And I remember like most of them were so nice and down to earth. You'd think they'd be like pretentious or like, not nice.
People.
They were cool, and they showed you like you don't got to be a jerk. You can be like totally nice and be successful and all that. And it was really cool to see. But I met Scarlett, funny, at a club when she was like, she might have been like 13. She was probably too young to be in there. And I had just put out my first record, and we were in New York.
She was really 16 or 18. We'll just say she was 18 for the record.
Yeah,
right?
She ain't going to get pinched. And all that. But I remember she came up to me and she said, hey, you're Pete, right? And I was like, yeah. She's like, I know your brothers. And it was that. And we were buddies ever since, And I think she came to mind to sing. I didn't know if she could sing or anything like that. It was in 2006. I was having like a weird time where I was like, having insomnia, I was having crazy anxiety, and I'm going on like a week of no sleep, and I finally fell asleep for like, I feel like it was 5 minutes at like 7 a.m., and I woke up, my heart was beating, it was almost like a fever dream or something, and I woke up and just in my head was, you gotta make a record like Bridget Bardot and Serge Gainsbourg and Scarlett is going to be Bridget, and that's it. And
that was like a dream almost that you had.
And I remember, and I was living with my oldest brother at the time, and I walk out, and he's like having coffee, and I'm like, dude, I got to make a record with Scarlett. He's like, he looked at me like, what are you talking about? And so I texted her, and it was just lucky timing where she was in a point in her life, I think, where she was looking to sing a little bit, and it was before she made Anywhere I Laid My Head, and she just hit me right back. She's like, let's do it. Like, it was that simple.
Yeah, I read somewhere that you just sent her a text, hey, it's PY, let's do a record. And she's like, what? Okay.
Yeah, she was
as
just
simple
down.
as that, right? That's amazing. And the new record, right? So you guys have done, I believe, 3 records now together, right? So obviously this is a
just
format.
Just two.
Okay. But the new record came out not long ago. There's an EP that you guys put out together. And tell me how that came about. And I love the song Realtor, so I want to jump to that in a minute. But tell me about the whole record and the process and everything.
The newer one?
Yeah, the new one that you guys did.
Yeah, like, we made Breakup in 2006. I think it didn't come out till 2009 because I didn't know what to do with it. And then we just still liked it, and we wanted to put out. But yeah, like it was almost 10 years later that we kind of found each other in kind of hanging out in like some circles again, and we were talking, and she had some time. I was like, and over the years, I definitely had some songs that I remember I put aside that I was like, oh, I'd love to hear Scarlett on this or sing this line or whatever. And so I was like, you down to come to the studio, do a few more things? And she was.
It almost has a bit of a country flair, this new record. Do you feel that a little bit? For me, it has this sort of like, I love it. It's definitely a little bit of a different direction than some of the other stuff I feel.
I think the inspiration changed from Serge and Bridget to like Lee and Nancy or something like that.
Right.
A little bit. And different producers, like the Breakup record was done by Sonny Levine, and he definitely brought a flavor to that. And the Apart EP that we just put out was done with Walt Vincent.
Oh, right. Again.
We got back together.
Back
so
to
I feel like there's kind of like that old school kind of sound to it.
Definitely. And is there a story behind Realtor? Because I love that song.
It's Relator, but everyone calls it Realtor. No,
you know what? Let's call it Relator. Realtor, Relator.
The story behind that was, I had it. I didn't know that Scarlett would end up singing on it. I remember we both when she came to the studio, we didn't have much time with her, and so she sang all her vocals in over 2 afternoons, and I didn't know where it would fit in. So I sang all her parts, she sang all my parts, and we just got coverage, And then when we were putting together, we were listening to it after with Sonny. We were like, wow, she sounds so great on this, and it just kind of had a vibe right away. I think just like the sound of that song just kind of took on something that I didn't even expect. It was like a little song, you know, it
Yeah.
was just this little song, and it ended up becoming one of the most popular things I've ever been involved with.
Amazing song. Are you guys planning on doing gigs together by any chance? Or with
know.
her schedule and your schedule, probably not, but
Yeah,
you never know, right?
We've never ruled it out. We've done live performances. We did a bunch of TV back in the day, and we played some shows and stuff like that. But as far as like touring and stuff, you know, it's logistically it seems like it would be interesting to tackle. So I don't know.
Definitely. Well, I want to jump to her later. I love the song, love the new record. We'll be right back in 2 minutes with Pete Yorn. Hey guys, we're back with Pete Yorn, and we were just talking a little bit about the Scarlett Johansson collaboration that came out, and we were talking about France and some of the success the record has had over there. So it's gone platinum over there. What is platinum over there, Pete? Is it like
It's 10 records.
it's 10 records, right? It's amazing, but it's actually a pretty amazing thing that it went platinum over there. And the writing process now and how you record music and the state of music now. I mean, it's all changed, right? From 20 years ago when you started and singer-songwriter to now sort of where it's all gone with EDM and hip-hop and where it's all heading and social media. Do you have some sort of thoughts on like everything and sort of the future of music and where your career is now, where it's going and everything? Because obviously you're putting out great music, you know, day after day here. So it's interesting to hear your take on where it's all going.
Yeah, like there's so many things that changed, but a lot of it's the same. Ironically for me, like I always loved working at home studio. So like Music for the Morning After was made in a garage on Digital Performer, like, you know, on like our little computer. And, you know, we still work that way. You know, once in a while we'll throw some tape up, but that's just the way we liked to work. And
so you never did the big production recording studio thing?
I have before, but, you know, and I've gotten mixed results, but I'm always like, it's not the car, it's the driver. And I feel like there are purists who are like, it has to be on tape, do this and sound fat this way and all. I'm like, yeah, but there's plenty of terrible records that were recorded in big studios on tape. And there's, you know, it's really just kind of how you put it together. But so that change has been kind of seamless for me because that's what I always like to do anyway. The biggest change I feel like is this kind of like non-dependency on a label, really, which is it's kind of fun and opens up a lot of doors for people who don't necessarily need to be on a label, you know. And I was talking to someone who's very, you know, very smart the other day, and he's like, you know, nowadays distribution is there. Like you want to put something out, and you got to wait for people to know about it. You just put it there, and it's globally available instantly. And it's kind of mind blowing that way. So the biggest thing is getting the messaging out, like that people know you have new music. You know, I feel like. And whether that's a publicist or if you're really kind of savvy with social media and people want to pay attention to you, you know, you have that opportunity. Like I'm kind of like a reluctant social media person. Like some of my friends have personalities where they're just like love to be on all the time and like love broadcasting themselves. And I'm not really that person, even though maybe like a couple of days a month I get inspired to do that. But I'm kind of more like, I don't know what to do.
I guess it's good. You have a tour coming up. You want to promote some dates. You get on there,
it's great to do that. And it's great to meet, like you meet, you know, fans through that, and they're always awesome. You know, they're always tell you kind of what they want to hear, so I could like figure out what to work on for a set and stuff like that, which is cool.
And you just finished like a string of dates, right?
I just finished. Yeah, I do like I've been doing these acoustic tours lately, and I just finished a run down south. I hadn't been to Florida in a long time. It was like 10 years, so I was down, played a bunch of shows in Florida and Tennessee and Alabama and Georgia.
And it's just you and your guitar. It's like singer-songwriter, like no band, right? It's just
it's kind of like a storyteller show where we just kind of talk about stuff, and there's no set list, so we make it up as we go along, and it could go anywhere.
Did you see the Springsteen thing on Netflix?
I did, and I was lucky to see it in the middle of a tour. I was touring the East Coast. I'd played Stone Pony, and then the next night I had a night off, saw Springsteen on Broadway, front row, which was like unbelievable, except I had to pee like 3 songs in, and I'm like, how am I going to do it? And then the next night I got to play New York City, and, you know, it's like got into my cells, you know, just seeing this masterclass of Bruce, you know, do this solo one-man show with his guitar and piano, and then get to go do it myself the next night. And kind of, you know, these things seep into me. And so I felt it was really influential. So
did you take on sort of a storyteller's vibe to the shows now? Do you kind of talk about the songs? And
I had been doing it anyway. You know, just seeing that, though, up close, more so than the stories, like little things like the way he held a guitar, or like how quiet he got, like he was barely picking at moments. Yeah. You realize, like, it's just like little tricks like that, like kind of technical tricks, you know.
He's the master of that, right?
Yeah, and it was so cool to see that. And then I used to not talk on stage much at all, and these shows have given me the opportunity to kind of come out of my shell a little bit. And sometimes I joke, I get chatty Cathy. Like I got so many thoughts about the songs coming back to me as I play them that I kind of like interrupt the songs and start sharing information. But people seem to like it, and I said, you know what? Until someone says I talk too much, I'll keep talking. You know?
Well, I think people love the stories behind songs. I mean, your first 3 records were sort of like a trilogy, right? So talk me through like how that was, the concept behind that.
Yeah, it wasn't initially planned that way, but as I kept growing through those years, there was this theme. I kept revisiting love and loss and regret and fear and all these things. And as you grow, when you're 20, you look at that stuff one way, and when you're 30, you look at that stuff one way. And so the morning, day, and night was just a metaphor for moving through time and seeing things, in different perspectives.
I feel like a lot of people can relate to the breakup song, right? And your first few records were so relatable because the stories behind them. So, I really took to those first couple records like crazy. And again, like my Desert Island disc for sure. Do you have any like Desert Island discs? Is it Zeppelin? Is it the Smiths? Is it REM? Like, who would your Desert Island disc be if you had?
Sure, I haven't thought about that in a while, but oh boy, it changes all the time. Maybe like a little like Pet Sounds, maybe Queen is Dead.
Were you a fan of the movie, by the way?
I didn't see it.
You didn't see it? Wow, you definitely got to see it.
Wait, which the Morrissey?
Bohemian Rhapsody. Oh, Queen is Dead, Smiths. I thought you were talking about Queen record.
Oh no,
the Smiths. Okay,
Queen is Dead, Smiths record.
Yeah, the Smiths record.
I saw Bohemian Rhapsody though. That was fun. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
I remember after seeing it, just loving Freddie so much more, and I thought that performance was so great.
Yeah, it was great
by Rami, and then it was cool that he won the Oscar.
I also like that the fact that it's bringing rock a little bit more in the spotlight now, right? So there's all these documentaries, these sort of, there's an Elton John one coming out now.
The Motley Crue one coming out
now. Actually, we have Neil Strauss on the show next week, which would be really cool because
he was just at Largo. I met him.
Yeah, he wrote The Dirt, so we're excited about that. That's cool. But yeah, there's all these, again, for me, like bringing rock back is never a bad thing because I don't know if you listen to Greta Van Fleet or any bands currently in that genre, but do you have any thoughts on any of those bands that are happening at the moment? The Struts, Greta Van Fleet, any of those bands?
Yeah, I haven't been listening to too much. Greta Van Fleet's on my radar, and they sound, they're doing like a Zepp thing, but they're kids, and that's pretty cool. And they're doing it really well, apparently. So yeah, that's all good. It's like I just feel like music is a creative outlet. People should, I just want people to have fun or express themselves. The best stuff, it shows us like more about ourselves, I feel like.
Definitely.
So if that's happening for some people, that's great.
And you got 7 shows coming up now on the West Coast. You got the Troubadour. You got a bunch of other shows coming up. I believe there's like a Hermosa Beach show, right? There's a bunch of shows coming up.
Yeah, there's San Fran, Sacramento, Anaheim.
Any tickets still left to any of those shows? Because we got to sell it out if there are a few left here. So
yeah, we got to blow these tickets out. I think there's a few left in San Fran and Sacramento and maybe Solana Beach, but I think the rest are gone.
And I was checking online. You do like a 30-song set, which is pretty impressive because the last 30 songs, man. Well, I think I saw Guns N' Roses a few years ago. They played for like 4 hours, and even the drummer who I'm friends with was like, he was even like, I think that's a long time. But 30 songs is a lot of songs, right? So yeah, tell me about it. Are you playing everything? You running through the whole catalog there? Are you running through the Scarlett Johansson stuff?
Yeah, everything's fair game. I used to. It's funny, when I first started doing these acoustic tours, I call them the You and Me tours, and I started doing them maybe in 2014. And I was looking at some of the old set lists when I just started out, and there was like 17 songs, 16 songs. I was like, wow, I was doing like that. And now I'm like playing a lot longer, but everything's fair game. It's, stuff that's unreleased, all the old stuff from the old records and new records, covers. Definitely do a lot of covers. I talk about everything, and that's kind of been fun, just kind of sharing information about it. And the new songs too that nobody's heard. I play a few of those as well to test stuff out, new material, which is cool.
So you have new music coming out too on top of the Scarlett Johansson record that you just put out?
Yes, I do.
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of new solo stuff coming.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. So, I mean, I love it. And what's next for next year for you? Just more music, more touring and stuff? Are you going to go back with a band? Because you also did the side band at one point. You did the Ohms, right?
Yeah,
so.
the Ohms. The Ohms is dormant right now, but I think JD's focusing more on painting and stuff like that. But I think at some point we'll get back together, and we actually have a lot of songs kind of half finished that I think will turn out really good.
Is there anything that you haven't done that you really want to do? Like, I really want to play with an orchestra. I really want to do a metal record. Like, is there anything? I'd love to hear Pete Yorn does Iron Maiden, but I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon, but it would be great to hear that. Does anybody ever call it is there any like covers that you do when you're playing now live?
Yeah, everything from, of course, Springsteen. Ironically, the night after I saw Springsteen on Broadway, because I usually play a Springsteen song like every night.
Yeah.
And the night after I saw him, I looked at the set afterwards and I didn't play any Springsteen. And I felt almost self-conscious because I absorbed so much from his show that I was like, to play any Springsteen would be too much. Right. I felt like too much at that point. This was kind of cool. Yeah, I mean, I play Smith's covers, Springsteen covers, all the songs, that I grew up loving, that inspired me, and or some guilty pleasures too. Like I've been messing around with "Let's Wait a While" by Janet Jackson, which is kind of ironic, I think, or weird, but I love that song so much.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I was watching the Ellen Show interview you did with Scarlett. You guys were singing like Salt and Pepper, so I'm assuming, or she was singing Salt and Pepper, so I'm assuming you're not going that deep, right? It's more more your influences. That's cool. Well, definitely check out the dates. Specifically, the Troubadour is March 13th, I believe. And there's a bunch of other dates coming up on the West Coast. So check out Pete Yorn. Definitely get the new record with Scarlett Johansson. And another new record that's going to be coming out next year, I hope. And hey, man, such a pleasure. We got a bunch of mutual friends. So I did speak to the Burns brothers yesterday. So I like that connection. And congrats on all your success. I appreciate you coming by.
My pleasure. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks, brother. Thanks.